Okay, so here we go with our day 2 of trigonometry. Today we're going to focus on sine, cosine, and tangent. So on top of what we've already learned, which was tangent, we're going to add sine and cosine to it. Everything is done the same. You're still going to label your sides. This time we're going to work with the hypotenuse, so you may use sine or cosine, but everything is still the same. We're still going to multiply. Oh my, we're still going to multiply when x is in the top, divide when x is in the bottom, and inverse when x is on the other side. So none of that is going to be any different than what we've done in the past. So we're still going to multiply when x is in the top. We're still going to divide when x is in the bottom. Ooh, goodness gracious. And we're still going to inverse when we're looking for the angle. So none of that is any different than what it was the other day. So let's get to it. So let's look at angle A here. So we're going to look at angle A. Notice that this is adjacent. So this would be your adjacent side. This is opposite. So this would be your O. This would be your A. This would be your O. Now this is your hypotenuse. So nothing has changed. Okay. Now remember, when you're looking at angle B, everything is just the opposite. Now this is adjacent. This is hypotenuse. And this one is opposite. So we're still labeling exactly the same. All right, so let's look at angle A. So if we're looking at angle A, see the little guys pointing at angle A. So this would be opposite, this would be adjacent, this would be hypotenuse. So the sine of angle A is 3 over 5. The cosine of angle A would be adjacent over hypotenuse, so 4 over 5. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent, so it would be 3 over 4. Same thing as before. Okay, now we're going to look at angle B. So now this is still the hypotenuse. Now this side is adjacent and this side is opposite. So the sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so 4 over 5. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 3 over 5. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent, so 4 over 3. All right, so now let's find the tangent of A, the sine of A, and the cosine of A as ratios. So we're just going to write fractions, nothing more. So we're looking at angle A first. So I'm going to look at angle A. This is the hypotenuse. This side is adjacent, and this side is opposite. So let's plug in the numbers. The tangent of A is O over A. So O is 8, A is 15, so this would be 8 over 15. The sine of angle A is opposite over hypotenuse, so that would be 8 over 17. And the cosine of A is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that would be 15 over 17. So now let's look at angle B. So now if I look at angle B, this is still the hypotenuse. Now this side is opposite, and this side is adjacent. So the tangent of B is 15 over 8. The sine of B is O over H, so that would be 15 over 17. The cosine of B would be A over H, so that would be 8 over 17. So just the same, nothing's changed yet. So now, given that this is a right triangle, use sine to find the measure of angle A. So now we're actually going to find out how big is that angle. So the sine of angle A says I have to use the hypotenuse and the opposite, so that would be 3 over 5. So remember, you move the sine over and you get inverse. So in your calculator, you go second sine 3 over 5, and we find out that this angle is 37 degrees. So the same thing if we were to do cosine of angle A, this would be 4 over 5. So I would write inverse cosine, which should be 37 degrees because it's still the same angle A. And tangent would be 3 over 4. So you get inverse tangent, which should still give you 37 degrees because it's the same angle A. All right, now which one do we use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? So I'm going to circle the angle of reference. This is my hypotenuse, and this is opposite. I'm going to make sure that I've written this at the top of my paper. So, katoa. So I have an O and an H. That means I have to use sine. So the sine of the angle is opposite over hypotenuse. So if I plug that in, I get the sine of 54 over 1 is opposite is x, hypotenuse is 18. So we cross multiply and we get that x is 18 times sine 54. Type it in the calculator. We find out that this side is 14.6. Okay, this time we've got this angle. This side is adjacent and this side is the hypotenuse. So we're going to use cosine because we have SOHCAHTOA. So the A and the H tells me to use cosine. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set this up so the cosine of 36 degrees is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so we've got cosine of the angle, so cosine of 36, equals the adjacent 5 over the hypotenuse, which is t. Now remember, when the variable is in the denominator, these two guys switch places. So then I would have t equals 5 over cosine 36. So type that in your calculator and you will get 6.18. So this should say t equals 6.18. T equals 6.18. All right. So here we have the angle. This is adjacent. This is opposite. So we're going to use tangent because we have an O and an A. So when we plug it in, we get the tangent of 28 is 12 over x. So remember, these two guys will trade places. So I get, go over here and write, oops, x equals 12 divided by tangent 28. Type it in the calculator and we get 22.6. So just remember, these two will trade places. So this switches with this. So switch these two and divide. Okay, so let's try this one. Here's our angle. This is adjacent. This is the hypotenuse. So that means we're going to use cosine adjacent over the hypotenuse. So I plug in the measures. So cosine of 53 is m over 32. So since m is in the top, we just cross multiply. So 32 times cosine 53, and you get 19.3. Okay, number 7. So we circle our angle. This is our hypotenuse, and this side is adjacent. So we have the A and the H, so we have to use cosine. So plug in the numbers. So the cosine of 15 is 30 over x. So remember, when x is in the denominator, they switch places. So x is 30 divided by cosine 15. And then you type it in the calculator, get 31.1. All right, so now we're going to circle our angle. This is adjacent. This is hypotenuse. So it's cosine because it has the A and the H. So now you just plug it in. So we have the cosine of y equals 3 over 10. So remember, when you're looking for the angle, you move the cosine to the other side. And when you move the cosine to the other side, it becomes inverse. You type it in the calculator and you get 73 degrees. So that is a 73-degree angle. All right. we've got angle y. This is opposite. This is hypotenuse. So we're going to use sine because we have an O and an H. So we plug everything in, 6 over 8. Move sine. So we're going to move this over to the other side. So it becomes inverse sine in the calculator, 49 degrees. Now what about when there's a word problem? So we have a ladder leaning against a house. So here's our house, and we have a ladder leaning against it. The ladder, the angle the ground makes with the ladder is 57 degrees, so you've got it leaning at a 57-degree angle. What's the distance from the bottom of the ladder to the base of the house? So do we use sine, cosine, or tangent? So here's our angle. The ladder is the hypotenuse, and this side is adjacent. So since I have an A and an H, we're going to use cosine because cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. So we have our angle is 57, our adjacent is x, our hypotenuse is 14. Cross multiply, so x is 14 cosine 57, so it is 7.6 feet away from the house. And that's how you do all three together. See you in class.